And then about 9:15, my phone rang, and it was Christy Jones. And I could tell from the second that she said, hey, something was wrong.
The day after prom, Pleasant Grove students began to meet at a lake in Hot Springs. But this year, the celebration did not go as planned.
He walked in the bedroom and said Carter had been in an accident, and I jumped out of bed, pulled my earplugs out and said, what? And he was running out the door, and I was like, well, is he okay? And he said, all Drew said was that he's breathing, but he couldn't get him to wake up.
After the crash, when I saw Carter, I knew that he immediately needed help, and it could have been even worse than it was if I didn't get help as fast as I did.
Early that morning, a steady rain caused the roads to be slick between Texarkana and Hot Springs. Juniors Carter Beck and Drew Walters were slid off the road on the way to the lake. While Drew escaped with minimal injuries, Carter had suffered major brain injuries.
And Jack Walters, who later showed up about 20 minutes later, told me that it wasn't looking good, and Carter's bleeding from the back of his head a lot, and his exact words were, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, this does not look good at all.
They couldn't get him stabilized in the ambulance. They were originally going to take him to St. Michael's, and St. Michael's was diverting trauma to Wadley. And then we got a phone call at some point, Adam did, and asked if they could take him to Hope because they were having trouble getting him stabilized. Once they transported him, we headed to Arkansas Children's Hospital, and they beat us there, and went to the ER. He was in there, and they did a CT and showed that his epidural hematoma, which is bleeding on the brain, had gotten significantly worse. And so they took him straight back for surgery.
I sat in the waiting room for 3 hours maybe. His aunt and his dad's best friend came up and told me that the doctors had come in and talked to them. And in the moment that they said the doctors had came in, my heart just kind of dropped. And then just, only a moment later, they told me that the surgery went well. And I just kind of, right there, I just kind of broke down crying. So I really didn't think he was going to make it.
In the ICU, the head therapy doctor came in and visited with me, and she explained that he had a traumatic brain injury and that they classified those as mild, moderate, or severe, and that his was severe and his brain was damaged all 4 ways that it can be damaged. He was pretty much non-responsive for, several days.
Yeah, he opened his eyes for the first time for just a second, actually on Mother's Day.
The week I went back to school, I just really wasn't myself because the only thing on my mind was Carter.
That was a very tough week. Carter was beginning to wake up, and there's a lot of different phases you go through during that.
Being 2 hours away, it just made me more scared because I wouldn't be there if something were to happen.
In one of his therapy sessions, he was still in the agitation phase, and he stood up from the wheelchair, and we heard him kind of yell, home. That was where they asked him where he was trying to go, and he said, home. And then that next Monday, we could clearly hear him say, when the therapist asked what his little sister's name, it was very clear that he said Madeline, and so that was just amazing. After that, the next day he said like 15 more words, and then the next day he was speaking in sentences, and it was just mind-blowing how quickly that happened.
So the things that have changed since the wreck is when I got home, I had to start going to therapy, which I was already doing in the hospital.
They kept getting him stronger, helping him walk. We were at Arkansas Children's Hospital for 5 weeks, and he was released on June 7th, and we came home. He really is just a miracle where he is in his recovery because, he had a severe traumatic brain, or has a severe traumatic brain injury, and the brain was damaged all 4 ways. He had a completely severed artery in his brain from 9:08 in the morning until they took him back for surgery at 3:44. And so that's a lot of loss of oxygen, and he also had some subdural hematomas all over his brain.
Well, statistically, I shouldn't be alive. So people saying it's a miracle isn't a joke. 'Cause I didn't come to realization of how much of a miracle it actually was until after I looked up the statistics. With the artery, I had a 13% chance to live. My outlook on life has changed since the wreck by simply things like being more thankful towards basically everything in my life, and just living life and being more positive towards others because they're also living that life that I'm thankful for.
Where he is, he should not be. Starting his senior year of high school, he's back at the gym, lifting weights, he's playing volleyball, he's doing all the things with his friends. It's just such a blessing, and we're so very thankful.